Is the US really winning the war in Iran? On paper, it should be. Top leadership taken out, military capability heavily degraded. And yet something doesn't add up. Because suddenly, US President Donald Trump is scrambling, urging allies to help reopen the narrow strip of water, the Strait of Hormuz. So what happened? For the first time since the conflict began, traffic through the strait dropped from over 100 ships a day to 0. Nothing moved because of Iran. Why does that matter so much? And how can Iran control the strait it doesn't even own? And what happens if it stays shut? In today's video, let's break it down. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most critical choke points in the global energy system. It's just 30 to 50 kilometers wide, but every single day, around 20 million barrels of oil pass through it. That's nearly 20% of the world's supply. Look at the map and it all makes sense. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, the UAE, some of the world's biggest oil producers all rely on this one route. So when the passage fails, oil prices don't just move, they spike. But here's the real question. This is international water. So why does Iran always get to decide whether it's open or closed? The answer isn't ownership, it's geography. Iran controls the entire northern coastline of the strait, and under international law, it can project control up to 12 nautical miles, about 22 kilometers from its shores. That's enough to cover a huge portion of this already narrow passage. And here's the key, you don't need a full blockade to shut it down. Even with limited naval power, which was crippled by the US, Iran can deploy fast attack boats, mines, drones, just enough to make the risk unbearable. Because once insurance companies pull out, no tanker is willing to pass. So what happens when the strait shuts? Prices surge. Since late February, global oil prices have jumped nearly 50%, and Asia feels it the most because around 80% of the oil flowing through Hormuz goes there. Countries like Japan and South Korea are especially vulnerable. But what about China? Only 6.6% of China's total energy consumption depends on oil passing through Hormuz. So yes, it matters, but not as much as it used to. For the US itself though, the pain is even more real. Domestic oil prices have surged over 20% in just weeks, and American voters are extremely sensitive to that. Higher fuel costs, higher inflation, and political pressure. With the midterm election coming, this could turn out real bad for Donald Trump, because the MAGA camp does not like overseas wars, especially ones that hit their wallets. Trump has created a bigger mess than he expected, and he needs to clean it up fast before his voters turn their back against him. So now he needs the strait reopened fast. That's why he's calling on allies to step in, because reopening Hormuz could cool oil prices and buy him time politically. But so far, no one is stepping up. And that's the bigger picture. Iran has shown it's willing and able to push back. That means this conflict is unlikely to end quickly. And as long as the Strait of Hormuz remains unstable, the ripple effects won't just stay in the Middle East, they'll be felt everywhere.